Hey guys, let's Minetest mod. Quick note, I've got a pizza bow tie with green on it, which means it's a fancy pizza bow tie because it's got basil. Last class we talked about registering a node, and some of you wanted to try some of the fancy options like on-call or on-click, stuff like that. Underneath, we're adding the three different additional descriptions underneath groups. And so those fall underneath the specific category called actions and callbacks. And although I would love to get into that, I first need to cover a little groundwork before we do that. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the command line. And actually this will be today's topic, is the command line. So when I run a Minetest server, there's a window with where there's a command line window with a bunch of text, and it shows all the details of what's going on in the game. And this is really, really helpful for debugging and just seeing what's going on in the game. Now, in order to do that, so far what we've been doing is we've been setting up our game through the Minetest GUI right here, or start game, and we would we'd click our settings and then play game. Now, that won't work. That's not how we're going to start our game anymore, or at least for the foreseeable future. I want us to spin up an actual server, not just a local game, but a server. And the reason why is so that you can actually have that command line sitting off to the side. So I want you to get in the habit of doing this. It's a little bit more, there's a little more to it, but it'll help a lot later on. So first of all, you want to make sure there's a game that you have actually created before, which all of you should have, on your Minetest application. And in my case, the name is Class 2021. You've got to remember that. So I've got that. I've got a world created. I have configured it with my mods and whatnot. And so now I want to spin it up and actually get on and play it. So in order to do that, we're going to go over to the folder, your Minetest folder. This folder, I'm specifically in the bin folder. So wherever your Minetest folder is, for instance, I'll go through where mine is. I go to C, which is probably where yours is. And then I click on Minetest. Yours looks a little bit different, but it's similar. And then again on Minetest, finally on bin, which brings me to the bin folder. Now, if you think back to our Lua scripting, whenever we wanted to run a Lua script, we had to open up a command prompt in that folder, right? We had to open up a command prompt in the folder. We have to do the exact same thing. And so on pretty much any Windows machine, this should work. You're going to click the URL bar or just select all of it, however you want to do that. And then type CMD. CMD should be the only thing in the URL bar at this point. Press enter and it opens up a command line in that folder. As you can see here, C Minetest, yada 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 /bin. Now what we need to do is we need to type minetest.exe. So get that, minetest.exe. And I hope you can see that. Next we're going to do / server -- world name. And then we're going to type for me, I'm going to type class 2021. This is the name of your server. So whatever you have called it, that's where you need to type it. And what happens when we press enter is it actually fires up an instance of the world. And I'll show you, watch over here to the left. I'll kind of move that up and more prominent, move this over to the side. Now, when I want to actually get onto this server that I've created over here, right? I need to not start a game in the Minetest GUI. I need to join a game because it's already started up. And you'll notice here that one of the last lines that it printed, it says it's listening on 000:30,000, which is our local local address, if you will, of the computer. All right, so we're not trying to reach out to another computer to connect to some other server. We're going internally. So in here, you will create a username and type in some random password. Remember that random password. Don't just type random keys. Remember that password. And then you're going to click connect. And that will actually join you in. Now watch over here to our left as I connect. You should see that, as you do, that we have somebody called test that joined at a certain time and whatnot. All right. So, and then it lists the players. So that's kind of nice. It tells you who's all in the game. So here I am in a world which is connected to the command line. So what's the point? What does this do for me? Well, let me go over here to this Lua controller where I have some code called, which is using the print function. This is Lua code. It's just this print and it has some text. And when I when I press execute, that text gets printed to the screen. This is very, very helpful when you are trying to figure out what's wrong with some code of yours. This Lua code, yes, you can write it in a Lua controller, but it can also be written into your mods. If you think back on the very first mod that we did, the initial line of that mod said print, and then it said some text. And this is where, over to our left over here, that is where that text would appear when you run your mod. So we'll go ahead and try that out. Briefly, here's another example. You'll see that that over to our left, the command line is printing hello, and that's because of this Lua controller here. I simply have, if you can see that, the first line says print hello. It's just great for debugging. Again, like I said, it's great for debugging. Now, this is another function of the command line. It tells you what players do in the game. So watch me break this sand, and it shows that detail over to the left or on the command line. And then also here I have a command block that's programmed to reset the time of day to the morning. And you can see here, if you watch it carefully, every time the blinky plant blinks, it moves the sun back down. So anyways, that's what that's doing. I disabled all that because I didn't want it just spamming the command line. As you can see, every second or so, it just prints that to the screen. So I'm going to break that and let it run its course like normal. So, okay. Last thing before I guess two more things we need to do. Let's run that mod. Let's actually add a mod to the game and run it. Something with a print, something that says print inside. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go find our mod and make sure we have a line in there that says print. I go back to my folder here called bin. Don't close your command line because you don't want to have to open this back up. Let's go to our mods folder, and in my mods, I don't, but there you have it. I have my mod in here now, which at just a simple snap of the fingers, it appears. Computers, man, they've come so far. And I'm going to get into my init.lua, open Notepad++, and there you go. The first line says print. This file will be run at load time. All right, so that's fine. Let me add some little some hyphens here just to help pop it out of the command line when we run it, so it's easier to see. Okay, so we've saved our mod. We make sure that we have a line that says print, and it's simply print, and then you open and close parentheses. Throw some text in there. Make sure that text is surrounded by quotation marks. Okay. And then we can go ahead and close all that down. We don't need that anymore. Go back to the Minetest GUI, and we've got to configure this game, right? So we have a mod that we have just added, and I need to make sure it's enabled. So the way I do that is I click on the world that I want to configure. I click configure. I select the mod. I click enable. I click save, and then I have enabled it. Now let's see what happens when we fire up the server with that mod enabled. I'm going to actually end this world by pressing Control-C. That's Control-C, and that shuts down that server. And then I'm going to up arrow to recall the last command and press enter. And you should see right here, you may notice, it says this file will be run at load time. And so it has taken that little bit of text and it's printed it to the command line. So this is excellent for debugging and just seeing what's going on in your mod and at what point in the game that your mod is even run, period. Okay, final thing, I promise, I know this is stretching on. I want to show you how to fire up this command window in a much, much easier way. What we're going to need to do, and over here to the left, I have the actual command line wiki page. It covers everything to do with command lines and Minetest. So back over to our right here, I'm in the folder. I need to navigate back to my bin folder. So I click on mods, Minetest, and then into my bin. In here, I'm going to right click, I'm going to click new, and then text document. Make sure that you see .txt on the end of that file. You have to see .txt. And what we're going to type is start server.bat. Start server.bat. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to do that? Because that seems kind of strange. Yes, I do. Now, it's simply a text file which has nothing inside of it, so we need to actually put some script inside of it. We're going to right-click on start server.bat, and then we're going to click edit with Notepad++. In here, we're going to type minetest.exe/server. This is exactly what we did before. Name, world name, and then my is going to be class 2021. Yours will be different, and then click save. Now I've closed my Notepad++ down, and now I double-click server, and it actually fails. And this happens every now and then because the Windows is still using the address that we've used in the past. It's called a port, a location, a spot. And so it's claimed already and we can't use it. The way that I have gotten over this issue in the past, which I'm going to close down my Minetest now, I have simply went to start game, host server, host game, and it didn't work because over here in Minetest I had a second window. So that was the issue. Now when we fire up start server, we see that it runs just fine. So I had something else open at that. So check, make sure you don't have any other windows open. And if everything else fails, go to your Minetest GUI and fire up the server that way. Make sure to check the box host server. And so here I have my server very easily. It started by simply double-clicking on start server.bat. So that is pretty much everything and too much, that more than you probably wanted to know about the command line. So what I want from you is a picture of your server running in a command line with, right next to it, a picture of Minetest with you in the game and on the command line an entry that says that you joined the game. Okay, so Minetest over to the left, and then server over to the right with an entry that says that you actually joined it. Get started, guys.